passionate to beat somebody. We're passionate to beat everybody.
My expectation is we go out and dominate and create a nightmare and make people never want to play you again.
If you are a fan of another team and your coach is not out there doing everything that Kirby Smart is doing right now, you are already losing. You feel however you want to feel about that.
Nowhere to run and nowhere to hide for 4 quarters. They got to see us in our house for 4 quarters. They got to look us in the eye for 4. This is about us and our family and our house. This is about us. This is our mentality. We ain't backing down. We ain't running. Set a tone, send a message. This is our house. Physical toughness wins in football now. And if you in this room, you got it. If you come in here, you better believe in it. Because this physical toughness, it's what makes the difference. Elite focus. That's all I'm doing to the guy across from me. I'm fixing to whip his ass. Not in my box, not today. It's about us. It's about our family. We attack. You take that helmet and you strike them. And you strike them and you strike them. That's how you get respect.
Physically, I will break them.
I tried to tell him this summer.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out. We want Georgia. We want Georgia.
I tried to tell him this summer. I tried to tell him that when you roll into the SEC, it's different. And I can't make you understand it until your team has to run the gauntlet. I think they're starting to get it. But there was all that talk. There was all that talk here on my channel, across my pages, across the nation about the #1 team in the country with a bullet, the runaway choice as the best team in the land, and poor old Georgia. Poor old Georgia had to go on the road, shouldn't have even got on the plane. And all those dogs did was roll into Austin. All Dog Nation did was roll into Austin, put a serious hurting on their brown water supply, paint the town red and black, and leave those Longhorns horns down, black and blue. That's what happened. Georgia had 3 turnovers and still won by 2 touchdowns on the road against the runaway #1 team in the land, and put everybody on notice that if they figure it out, you better be concerned. And I don't care who you are. Georgia played very, very far from their most complete and best game. But on the flip side of that, the defense that we all thought we might see is the one that showed up. The DNA traits that make this program what it is, what it has been, and what it will be were on full display Saturday night in Austin, Texas. Here's what Texas did. They bumped their gums. Their fans did. Their starting quarterback did all off season. And all those Longhorns did was show up in front of millions and millions of fans and take the biggest loss at home by an AP #1 team since 1982. That's 42 years ago. I'm old enough to actually remember 1982. That's a long time. We're going to talk about that and a lot more on this week's edition of the How About That Dogs Cast. And I'm just going to start. We're going to walk through the whole thing. We're even going to look ahead a little bit to what the Dogs have coming down the road. But I had to start at the beginning. And it's a fellow by the name of Niccolo Machiavelli once put pen to paper and said, if you're going to shoot the king, don't miss. Now, if that's a little too old school for you, back in the early 2000s, there was this show on TV called The Wire. A fellow on that show by the name of Omar put it in a little bit more culturally relevant terms with one of the greatest lines in television history. And Omar says, if you're going to come at the king, you best not miss. Now, you might be wondering why I'm referring to Georgia as the king in this scenario. Texas was the #1 team in the land. That's what everybody said. Poor old Georgia. They decided to get on the plane anyway and head on out there. Take their shot against the mighty Longhorns. And they proved who actually runs this thing. They showed and reminded everybody across the country that if you were talking about the SEC, and specifically if you're talking about college football on the broader scale, it runs through Athens, Georgia. Now, I could have told you that before the game, and all I would have gotten was all that gum bumping from all those shorthorns. And then the games happen, and reality smacks you in the face. And then you come to understand that there's a lot more to this league than just showing up and telling everybody that you were going to run things. Now, Kirby wasn't going to have any of that. All that talk, all those words. Everybody's saying Texas is going to walk into the league. They're just going to take over, dominate everything in their first year. They've got more money. They've got more resources. They've got all the players. Got the best coaches. Entitlement. That's what it oozed. Entitlement. Kirby Smart says, no, that's not how it's going to go down. Let me show you the way. And that's what happened on Saturday night in Austin, Texas. I listened to somebody else this week. Like I said, I don't watch a lot of the Georgia Bulldog podcast, not out of disrespect or disinterest or anything like that, but I don't want to pollute anything that I might say by listening to them and maybe having their ideas bleed into my ideas. And I don't ever want to be thought of somebody who's going to take somebody else's idea, right? So I don't listen to a lot of the Georgia stuff when it comes to podcasts and people who kind of do this sort of thing. But I do listen to the national voices. And I heard on Sunday, a national voice, RJ Young, works with Fox. I heard him talk about Georgia in a way that I thought was very, very fitting. And he used the idea of a lion, the king of the jungle. And he talked about how that lion, he knows what he's all about. He just wants to hang out in the shade, stay out of the sun. Everybody knows he's the lion, right? You've got hyenas, you've got some elephants, you've got giraffes, you've got antelopes, all this stuff out there on the prairie, on the savannah, but everybody knows who the lion is. Apparently, Texas didn't get the message. And what RJ said was there comes a point when the lion has to decide that he's going to go do what lions do. The female lions, right? They're the huntresses. They're the ones who go out and get the food. That's what they do. They feed the pride. That's their role. And in the world of the lions, the male lions, they're the ones who lay down the law. They draw the line. They set the territory. Interlopers come into that space and they regulate. And to hear RJ talk about it, that's exactly what Georgia did on Saturday. Texas had ideas, somehow or another, that they were more than a Longhorn, that they might just be that lion. And then the real lion showed up and took what was his and reminded everybody in the process exactly what the lion looks like. Because in the SEC, as a whole, we've put college football on notice that it is different down here. You want to play against the baddest mofos in the game? Then you come down south. You play in this league. This is where it happens. You earn your bones right here. And then inside this league, there's only one team currently that can walk in like they own the place. And that's Kirby Smart's Georgia Bulldogs. And as much as it pains the Shorthorns to hear it, ain't nothing changed. Y'all are here and you weren't ready. you didn't understand. You did not have the perspective that I tried to give you back in the summer. Didn't want to listen. You're going to learn. You learned on Saturday. And now when I look down the rest of your schedule, I'm not so sure that you're done learning. That's a discussion for a different day. I told you last week that Georgia had to get right. They had to be serious because their college football playoff had already started, not because their back was against the wall. And if they lost against Texas, they were out of the playoff discussion. Not that exactly. That was part of it. But it was just more about how they had to get things right. They had to put it together. If they were going to be successful in the college football playoff, now was the time that they had to start ramping it up and getting things right for that late season run. Like I said, the college football playoff is now, and nothing has changed. Georgia's gone out there and had a really big win in front of tens of millions of fans. They have tried to let everybody know, we're still Georgia. We're still here, but nothing has changed. When they rolled into Athens, all eyes were on Georgia. The numbers, which we'll get to later about how many people actually watched it, verify this fact. And then even on game day, this is how it started. This is how it started. As if anybody is going to step back and go, no, we believed in Georgia. Not this crew. There were a few out there that did. Not this bunch. The flagship show of college football game day, not a one of them had faith that Georgia was anything that could handle the mighty Texas Longhorns. Well, this is how it's going. My little man Smart right there, pulling the receipts, letting you know. And when you go on the road and you do what Georgia did to Texas with the bright lights shining, the world looking in, and you handle business the way they handled business, well, after the fact, you've got a window where you can do or say just about anything that you want to do or say. And that's exactly what Georgia did. I want to share with you now a nice little video, courtesy of Georgia football and their social media team, that's going to recap exactly what happened in Austin last Saturday night.
You know, these players get the best out of me, and I'm so proud of these guys because nobody believed, nobody gave us a chance, and these guys are so resilient. You know what I mean? We talked about intent. What was our intent when we walked on the field? Our intent was not to take pictures, not to do all the superstar stuff. Our intent was to eat. Our intent was to come eat and be hungry. I'm not interested in all the bells and whistles. What I want is a team that fights their ass off, and they did tonight.
Texas on top of the table in college football, ranked number 1, 6-0 for the first time in 15 years. Now they face by far their biggest test of the season as the Georgia Bulldogs roll into town. The first collision of these two SEC heavyweights. This crowd can make it tough. This is a lot different than it used to be for Texas home games.
Was on the field in pregame. It's just what makes this sport so great. This is epic, and this is what Texas wanted. A chance to prove to the country that they can play with the big boys in the SEC.
That's what they wanted.
I love this team, and I love every man in this room for what you've done, what you've worked for. This is why you do what you do, to go cut it loose.
You know what time it is. They down here. They say we ain't got it. Everybody is against us right now. What we gonna do? What we gonna do? We fight. We got all y'all back. We all we got. We all we need. That's all we need.
This is what you wanted to do your whole life. This is it. This is it. Seize the moment. Seize the moment.
Let's go! Dawgs only! It's our home! For each other and with each other. You understand me? For each other and with each other the whole game. For each other and with each other cannot be defeated.
Get the feeling they knew. Get the feeling they knew. They knew what was about to happen.
anybody. We going out there to eat. You understand? Our intent is to go eat.
We want Georgia.
Blitz from behind. The ball is out. It's loose, and Georgia thinks they have it, and they do. The Dogs just blew up Quinn Ewers. ETN's the tail. We toss it to Trevor. ETN got a block to the corner. Touchdown! Right inside the pylon. And the Dogs on the board first. Battling the goal line. Oh, he's going to go down, I think. Yeah, Jalen Walker got him. With time in the pocket, throws, it's intercepted. The Dogs, Dalen Everett, jumps in front of the receiver and intercepts it, rolling down to the 34, 33-yard line. And he runs straight down the hash, breaks the tackle 5, falls towards the goal line. Touchdown! Touchdown, ETN!
Oh, nice. No going to sleep. We got to hunt. We got to keep hunting.
You can't play it any better than Aguero just played that.
Tackled at the 24. There's Aguero with another play. The sophomore makes his second straight stop. He's going to escape. No, he will not. He'll go down at the 21-yard line. Jalen Walker. The snap is good. The hold is good. The kick is good. Woodford got the 48-yarder.
Still hunting. Let's go. Come on. Let's go. Level. Even kill. Not too high, not too low. Let's keep it right here. Keep it right here.
Zero. Apex predator, don't stop eating.
They hand it off and now pitch it to Lovett, who throws it back to Beck, and wide open on the flea flicker is Oscar Delp at the 50, down the near sideline inside the 30, dragged down from behind with the jersey at the 25-yard line. Michael Taft saved the touchdown for Texas right there. We got a tight end there as well. Hand it to Trevor. This time he plows in. Touchdown, Georgia. Ewers, pressure from the edges. Ewers hit. The ball comes out and goes forward to the 45.
Swimming to his line.
Fourth down, Ewers takes the snap. Pressure from the edge. Chambliss grabs him. He throws it into the end zone, incomplete. Chaz Chambliss had Ewers twisting him down, and the Dogs will take over on downs.
The best way, the G way, the only way, the biggest way.
So how brilliant was that recap? How did it happen? That's what we're going to talk about right now. We're going to talk about exactly what Georgia did. And what they did was get in their bag, stay there, and go hunting. They went looking for dinner Saturday night. And it wasn't just Jalen Walker, but he was a big part of it. And we're going to talk about him just a little bit more here in a few minutes. But you have Michael Williams, whom I had been saying to you guys, the people who have been following this pod for a while now, you know that I've been telling you for a minute that the biggest thing I was excited about this season was when you had Captain Chaos, Michael Williams, healthy and ready to go, because you can take him and move him anywhere along the lines of scrimmage, and he can win one-on-one. But what's more important than that is that even if he's out there on the edge at his normal position, That's fine, because now you've got pinchers, because you can take Jalen Walker, who is a straight dog when it comes to rushing the passer. You can take Damon Wilson or Gabe Harris and put them on the other side and let them do what they do best, which is bend that edge, flatten to the quarterback, get the sack, the strip sack fumble, move him up in the pocket, because guess who's waiting? Warren Brinson in the middle on the push. Or maybe you have a guy like Tyron Ingram-Dawkins in the middle on the push. It allows the Dogs to put their very best pass rushers on the field when you know that you have to get after the quarterback. But Michael wasn't alone. Dalen Everett, everyone's lightning rod. Well, everyone that maybe is just more casual than some of the folks who are in here with us tonight, because I know you guys know there's only so much you can do when it comes to pass defense. And for the most part, Dalen has just had bad breaks. It's been unfortunate, but he's been there. And this Saturday, he showed up in a big way. Dalen Everett, 7 tackles, a sack, a forced fumble, an interception, and a fumble recovery. Rocked the game. I just mentioned to you about Damon Wilson. Did the same thing. All he did was show up with a sack and a fumble recovery and a forced fumble on the picture you're looking at right there. Dog after dog showed up and made an impact. These are just a few of the ones I wanted to mention right here, because we're going to mention a few more a little bit later. But Georgia, when it came to the defensive side of the football, showed up, showed out, and reminded everybody exactly who the big dog is in this conference. When they're right, show me a defense in this conference or in this country that you'd rather have. As Bulldog fans, we just have to hope that they continue to get healthy, that we stay healthy, and they keep doing this. Because if they do, it's going to make up for a lot of what's been going on the offensive side of the ball. So let's talk about that real quick. Trevor Etienne, have a game, brother. All Trevor did was show up in what everybody seemed to say was Georgia's biggest game of the season so far. Everybody outside. That's what they wanted us to know. All he did was show up, tote the rock 19 times, 87 yards, and the hat trick for touchdowns. Punched it into the end zone 3 times on incredible runs. Power, speed, vision, determination, strain, and effort. That's what Trevor Etienne did on Saturday night. He said, I want to come to Georgia and play when the games matter. This one was pretty big. And Buddy showed up. He was a huge part, right along with that defense, in making however in whatever the number is, the people in that Texas stadium, DKR, however many it holds, you see him? Nothing you could do about it because the defense had you on lock. The offense were cashing it in. Complimentary football. Hat tip to Brett Thorson, by the way. I don't know how much time I'm going to spend on him tonight. Tremendous job in the punt game for Georgia on Saturday. Complimentary football. I've been disappointed, actually, because I'd given Texas fans a little bit of credit as a group, as a monolith, for being, at least more informed than maybe your average fan. Now I'm not so sure. Because all I've seen since then was Georgia, they didn't do that much with that defense. Our offensive line, they had an off night, or it was totally Quinn's fault, or they didn't do anything on offense because they had short fields, always neglecting to point out the fact about why they had short fields. It was because you were getting your ass whipped again and again and again. That's why. Now, maybe you could have played better. Maybe if they meet again, you will. But I'm still curious exactly where you're going to find a run game if this Georgia Dogs defense shows up the way it did on Saturday night. Because you couldn't run the ball. And by the time we got to halftime, those Longhorns didn't want none. They had had enough. It was all over their faces. So, all that's for later. Let's not get distracted. I'm just letting you know, Trevor had a lot to say about it. He'll have a lot to say about it next time, too. Assuming everybody gets there healthy. That's what we all hope. But he showed up just like he said he would when the games were the biggest. And good for him. Because Georgia needed it Saturday. I'm not even going to lie. Don't worry. We're getting to Carson. We're getting to the rest of that offense. But that dude right there, that's a difference maker. Just like we all thought he would be when he decided to come and be a Bulldog. And I'm thankful to have him. Check this out. Here's some more video evidence from Georgia football and their social media team. Just a glimpse of what Trevor did against the Longhorns.
Moving to our right, out of the pistol, hand it to ETN, and he runs straight down the hash, breaks the tackle, falls towards the goal line, touchdown, ETN.
Look at that move. Would not be denied. And like I said, it's a good thing that he had that kind of night. Because now we're going to talk about what every Bulldog fan wants to know, and that is what is going on with Carson Beck. Friends, church, I don't know. I could guess, but I don't know. A lot of people want to take the easy route and say, well, it's because he's got something going on in his personal life, or it's because of NIL, or pick a thing. I don't know. You might be right. But one thing that we can all say is that he has not performed up to the level that we thought he was going to perform at this year. And I think we have very good reason to say, what's up, Carson? We don't need regression. We need you to be baseline. If you are baseline good and you don't help the other team, right now moving forward, we Dog fans are going to feel pretty good because we know what we've got on the other side of the ball. Those dudes are figuring it out. They are locking it in. Once you see yourself do something on tape and you're like, oh, that's how damn good we can be. Okay. You start wanting to repeat that. So, I'm expecting that defense to just keep on working. Keep getting better. Again, assuming health, right? I expect them to just keep getting better. But Carson here, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's one of those situations where what we've seen from Carson for the most part this season has been what we saw from him the first 4 games of last season, where he seemed unsettled in the pocket. He seems like he's moving when he doesn't need to. He's just flat out making bad reads. And it's perplexing. He's managing the game great. He's getting them into the right plays. He is showing leadership when he's on the field. His teammates look to him. None of those things are the problem. The problem is execution, focus. And without us being in the meeting room, that's the best we can do. All we can say is if there's nothing wrong with you physically, then you just need to get a good night's sleep. Focus. I will offer a guess, and we're going to touch on it just a little bit more right here in a minute. Well, maybe we'll do it right now. Here's a number that's going to jump out to you, okay? Georgia's pass catchers this season have 16 drops, flat stone hands, 16 through 7 games. All of last season, 14 games, the Dogs only had 19 dropped passes. So let's start right there. If you are a quarterback, and we saw this at Alabama, now granted, kudos to Alabama, they impacted that game with their fan base. But we saw the miscommunication with Arian Smith on the screen, right? The change at the line. Carson makes the right read. The play, if it's executed correctly, could go for a big game. Arian doesn't get the call. Ball goes right into the chest of the Alabama defender. Carson's standing there throwing his hands up. Well, he didn't show his player up that way, but all of us did. We're like, what's happening? That's exactly what happened. Miscommunication, turnover, short field, Alabama scores. We know how that game goes. But Saturday night, that was different. Carson, he made bad choices. But when you have wide receivers that you can't count on, and I'm fully acknowledging that the players that are on the field right now are not the players that everybody thought they were going to be running with this year. Okay? Attrition, injury, bad choices, off the team, right? Not the same group. They're still good players, though. And the way Georgia's throwing the ball this year, which is something else I want to mention too, the way Georgia's throwing the ball this year, the percentages being out of whack, throwing it so much more than they run it, well, that shows you that the coaching staff has full belief in what Carson can do. They want to put the ball in his hands, and they trust the receivers they still have. But then I give you the number about drops, and you're like, that hurts, puts you behind the chains, can get you off rhythm and in trouble in a hurry. Now, a great defensive performance like we had the other night, well, that covers up a lot of things. But you can't expect that every time out. We all want it to be that way, but in the real world, you're not going to have something that dominant happen every Saturday. If we've learned anything in 2024, we've learned that you cannot count on having the same team Saturday after Saturday. Now, the top tier programs are going to be much closer to that, but it's still not going to be the same team. This year should show all of us that. It's like Kirby said in the locker room after the game against Texas, every team in the SEC can beat Georgia. Every one of them, if they don't show up and play their best. So if Georgia wants to be successful, they have to lock in, focus, and handle business. BTA the rest of the way, as far as I'm concerned, for that defense. But that offense, you got to come along. You got to do your part. Carson on Saturday night, 23 of 41, 175, 3 interceptions, 0 touchdowns. In the game, I'm like, okay, one of those wasn't exactly his fault. The other 2, really bad choices. Really bad choices. But I went back and looked. I don't feel that way now. I thought the one to Lawson Lucky was more Lawson's fault. Maybe he skipped a beat at the end there as the ball was coming, put himself in position to be forced to reach for the ball. When I went back and looked at it, I'm like, no, he just didn't make an accurate throw. You put that ball on Lawson's hip, he probably walks into the end zone. Instead, you get a deflection, and the Texas dude makes a nice play. Good for him. But it shows you just being off a little bit can do big bad things to your offense. It can wreck what you're trying to do. Georgia had 3 turnovers, all at the hands of the guy that we all thought was going to be the most dependable piece. It's weird. It's a weird dichotomy right now with Carson because he is that guy that the coaches want him to be. He is the focus, the center point of the offense. I am still in the boat that he should be because of everything else that he does. But the thing that I really, really want to see, and the thing that Georgia has to be able to do if you get into another situation where you're looking at what Carson's doing and he's not on, he's off, he's not sharp. That's where you have to be able to turn around and give the ball to ETN or to Frazier or to Jones or to Robinson when he gets back. You have to be able to do that. I told you last week that I think the biggest issue, if I were going to boil everything down to what Georgia's issues have been this year, it would be inconsistencies along the offensive line. Because if you're Carson Beck and you've got wide receivers that are out there and they're like dropping passes, running the wrong routes, you're not certain you can depend on them. And it's like there's a turnstile out there with the different people rolling in, and these are the guys you have to depend on now. That can make you a little uneasy because all those dudes that you spent the offseason working with, well, half of them aren't here right now. So they're figuring that part out. And then you've got an offensive line that at times this year has just cut players free. They've just cut them loose. Happened against Kentucky. Carson took a big hit or two. We saw this week where on the 4th and 1 late in the game, after Carson's run to pick up a first down, Georgia still had an opportunity where they needed to pick up another yard. And they were going to go for it. 4th and 1. That was a show me moment for that offensive line, and it did not happen. That's inexcusable. You got to get behind your pads and move another man in that situation. This offensive line for Georgia has to be depended on to be able to do that. Going back to what I said earlier, they are in the college football playoff right now. All of these things matter. Green, Truss, Jared Wilson, Dylan Fairchild, right? Got to fix it. They played okay against Texas. We need them to level up. I understand Ratledge might be back. That'll be nice. That'll be nice. But I still wish we had some younger bucks that maybe we could do something with the tackle rotation. Because those two dudes, for whatever reason, especially Green, they don't look like they looked last year. There's areas for improvement there. And if you're Carson Beck, you might be that dude. But if you're unsure about your wide receivers and you're unsure about your offensive line, these things all work together. So does Beck have to play better? Abso-damn-lutely. Absolutely. Because decision-making has nothing to do with the offensive line or the wide receivers. You can still make the right decision. And then those dudes have to do their jobs. He has to play better. But don't do yourself the disservice of going out and telling everybody else, well, it's all Carson Beck's fault. That's not the case. But even with all of that said, I mean, all Georgia's done is go out and score at least 30 points each of their last 3 times out, right? They are still scoring the football. Imagine if it comes together. Imagine if Carson Beck looks a little bit more like the guy who throws for 250 yards every Saturday than the guy who throws for 175 with 3 turnovers. Give us 250 yards every week. A touchdown through the air would be fantastic, maybe 2. Let that defense eat. Let's work on running that football. Keep everybody healthy. Let's ramp this thing up because there are teams on the schedule that can still beat the Georgia Bulldogs. They're on a bye week this week. That's good. Let's get some people healthy. Because when they come back, we all know who's still out there. Florida, Ole Miss on the road, Tennessee at home, who seems to sort of be figuring things out even though they're struggling on offense. And then you finish with Georgia Tech. I know about Georgia Tech, but they're going to fight this year. They're going to fight. And Georgia will have to show up and not beat themselves to win that game. But back to the defense. One of the things I said last week, and I said it on a couple of different places on this podcast, but I also said it everywhere else I went last week. Thankfully, people still think enough of me to go have me come sit in on their pods and talk football. So I don't remember exactly where I said this phrase, but I said something to the effect of Georgia has to have better leadership on the field. I misspoke last week. I said Roquan Smith was the guy who a couple of years ago at Tennessee got after Channing Tindall. It was not Roquan Smith. It got my years all messed up. Nope. That was Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean. Roquan did it back in 2017. He did it back against Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl. A couple of years ago, that was Nakobe Dean getting after Channing Tindall against Tennessee down inside the goal line, demanding accountability on the field for performance in the moment. I'm like, that is what Georgia has to have. And I explained why that could have been a little shaky so far this year. But that's what they have to have. Good news, Bulldog fans. Good news. Because we saw that this week. Think back to that video we watched earlier here tonight. We saw Jalen Walker on the field leading his troops Saturday night. We saw Michael Williams doing the same. We saw the young dude, C.J. Allen, staying after the guys, trying to lead. But Walker, given the night he was having, everybody knew he was running the show. To have him approach you between the lines and say, hey, cut it out. That ain't right. Do better. Man, if you got that, those dudes are going to listen. When you're rolling up 3 sacks, 8 tackles, when you're having a night like that, yeah, they're going to listen. They will respect that. That's what we saw on Saturday night. In case you missed it, here it is.
Stock on me, nigga. Play with your kid, I do not know these nigga. What were you from? I might drop your initial. Won't say that my face, then don't talk on me, nigga.
Know, hey, you got stuff to do, man. Quit messing around in the end zone. You might have made a good play right there, but quit messing around. Get back up here to the line. Next play. Work to do. Makes you feel great. And then he's out there making play. All he did, just go make another play. Just go make another play. And I show you the picture of his Conor McGregor walk after the sack on Arch Manning. He took 2 seconds for himself, 3 seconds, whatever it was, and then he hustled his butt right back over there and got ready to play the next play. And when you're having a night like he has, you can strut a little bit if you want to. I'm not going to say a word to you about it, brother. That's how that goes. Jalen Walker had one of those nights that you're just like, how does this happen? Well, again, if you're familiar with this channel, you know I've been telling you all off season that the thing that got me the most excited about this unit, about this team, was this unit. Because look at who's there. Look at the just raw ability of the guys that are lining up in pass rushing positions for the Dogs right now. Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, Gabe Harris, Damon Wilson. And I could keep going. Let's mention the middle linebackers real quick right here. Raylan Wilson, C.J. Allen. And there are more. Chris Cole, true freshman. With a vertical, he outjumped the Texas wide receiver who outjumped just everybody you know. I promise you that. And Chris Cole jumped up there and almost picked it off. By the way, the best linebacker in the country who's a true freshman, Justin Williams, he can't even get on the field right now. This unit makes you happy if you're a Georgia Bulldog. It makes me happy because I'm a defensive guy. That's all I ever did. That's where I studied. And to know that I got these dudes who can flat get after the quarterback if they do what they're supposed to do on first and second down and put them in position to go eat, holy hell. It is exciting to look at. And that's what happened on Saturday. And I told everybody that would listen to me in the run-up to the game, Georgia is going to shut down the Texas run game. They are going to squat and take away the short and intermediate pass game and play deep ball roulette. They're going to take their chances because they've got these dudes right here. They knew they were going to be able to get after those quarterbacks. First round draft picks at tackle for Texas or not. I like my dudes better than your dudes. They were going to go get him with 4, sometimes with 3. And then it was just a mind-blown scenario for those Texas quarterbacks. They went from rushing 3 to all of a sudden rotating up into zero coverage, bringing 6. And I saw Texas fans like, he missed this guy. He was wide open. Apparently, they don't seem to understand how a blitz works. Those quarterbacks had no shot, no time to be able to complete those balls down the field. Georgia schemed them up great. KIRBY, Schumann, Muschamp if he was involved, Robinson, all those dudes. You cannot throw enough roses at those guys this week. Because remember, Texas had an offense that was supposed to put 50 on the board. Runaway number 1 team in the land. And all they walked out of Saturday night with was a black eye, a bloody nose, and a big old fat L. Pretty nice, if you ask me. Now let's talk about the thing that everybody else seems to want to talk about. Not the pass interference, because they got the call right. The way they handled it, though, couldn't have been worse. Could not have been worse. Simply put, you cannot do what they did Saturday night. You just can't. You can't because once you set the ball ready for play, which they had done, and announced that it was Georgia's ball, the game moves on. Why did it not move on Saturday night? Because the crybaby section and the Texas Longhorn fan base decided to put other innocent people at harm, in harm's way, and show their behinds for the world to see. Awful display. No fan base. Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, nobody should do what happened. The only reason all that other stuff happened with the call being overturned and the touchdown being scored and all those things, the only reason that happened is because of what the fans did. Imagine for a second. Look, I'm a journalist, right? I have been on the sideline like this is what I've done for 25 years. Sports journalism, on the field, in the locker room, in the meeting rooms. On the field is dangerous. It's a dangerous place to be if there's nothing else going on. Players can hit you. There's all kinds of equipment around everywhere, cables running all over the place. Like you can really mess around and get hurt working down on the sideline. And then you have fans who do something like this. I don't care what the projectiles were. I'm showing you a bottle right here, but they had those aluminum beer cans too. You think all that is going to be a thing? They're all going to be empty? No. Those people were too stupid. They were throwing away the $12 they just spent in the heat of the moment, right? Could have injured someone really, really badly. I know people personally that took projectiles on Saturday night in the head. Imagine for a second, you're at the game, you're in row 1, 2, 3, 5, right down near the front. You're there. Okay, forget about yourself. You're there with your wife. You're there with your daughter, your son, your girlfriend, your mother, your old father, whatever. And somebody, drunk and stupid, is hurling projectiles toward the field, and they just happen to hit somebody you care about. It's not funny now, is it? Just an awful display. Just awful. There is no excuse for it. The SEC has done an awful job in the days since, both with the referees and with Texas. We'll see. They're still trying to do stuff, and they should. But the referees definitely need more accountability in this instance. And the people who did that, I hope that you've learned some sort of lesson here and you don't do this kind of stupid stuff anymore. But congratulations, Texas fans. Because whether you wanted it or not, it is too late. You already have a reputation inside the conference. And it's not great. I'm not passing judgment. I'm just telling you, it's not great. So this had a lot to do with it. So just hold that for a little while. And remember that as you make your way through the conference and go to see other places. Hopefully you'll be treated better than the Dogs and their fans might have been treated around this incident. I hope that's what happens. So let's roll on. Back to Carson Beck. Here's the thing. I was not nice to Carson earlier. I had a lot to say about how I think he's played so far and why. But here's the thing. I'm also going to be that guy who gives him credit. And I did a little bit earlier. Because of the way he's running the offense, the way he's leading his teammates, the things that they're asking him to do, he is doing. The way he is failing is that his execution has been poor. Which again is the thing that I know I didn't expect to happen. But I am going to give him credit for this too. Saturday night, we saw it in the video earlier. I'm sure you remember. Texas comes out halftime, score. Good on them. That's what you should do. Halftime's for adjustments. Get back in the game. Then all the PI stuff happens. They get the short field and they score again. Quick turn. Football is a momentum game. What does Georgia do? Georgia does what the boss does. They walked back out on the field, knew they had to have it. It's like that dude, maybe you sidle up to the bar, maybe you meet someone for the first time, they offer you their hand. You reach out to shake it. Yeah, you got a good grip. Pretty good grip right there. And you let them show you that they have a pretty good grip. And then you proceed to show them that yours is better. That you're the boss. And you don't have to say a word. That's what Georgia did. With millions and millions watching across the country. They walked on the field when they had to have it most against 105,000 on the road and the number one football team in the land. Took the ball 90 plus yards and put it in the end zone to double up the Texas Longhorns and put a nail in that game. The final nail in the coffin for now the Shorthorns. Because that's what Carson Beck and this offense has done all year. Pretty or not, when they had to have it, they have gotten the job done. And Carson has been responsible for leading that offense in those efforts. You cannot take that away from him. That just is what it is. When the money's on the table, he's gone out there and handled his business, and he has led this team. If he just gets it right, moving forward, things are going to be much, much brighter on the offensive side of the ball for Georgia, but there is work to be done. Make no mistake. Georgia is far from a perfect football team. But now we know, well, some of us have already known. The second half at Alabama told me. Now the rest of the world seems to be reminded of exactly who and what Georgia is. But we know that they are now an honest-to-goodness national championship contender. But they still have so much work to do. And the schedule that's going out the rest of the way is among the toughest in the land. So they're going to have to earn it. But that's what makes college football fun, and that's why we are all going to watch. But as for Saturday night, 30-15, Georgia had 3 turnovers, went on the road to take on the number 1 team in the country, doubled them up in their house, handing them the worst home loss by a number 1 AP team in 42 years. That's who the Georgia Bulldogs are. That's what they did. And 12.9 million watched them do it on average. ESPN's highest rated game since 2016. I didn't say Georgia's highest rated. I said ESPN's. I told you. It's a big game because Georgia's in it. I had some Texas fans try to say, no, Texas was the new factor here. That's why you got a higher viewership. See, nice try, but that is not what I said. This is ESPN's best showing. Remember, ESPN and ABC, they just got the games. Georgia produced higher numbers than this when the games were on CBS. It's about the Dogs. Take your L. Shh. Sit down. Just a reality. Simple and clean. Kirby Smart knows it. He knows that he's still building his record at Georgia, and it is impressive. This was win number 100 for Kirby Smart. Since taking over Georgia football in 2016, Coach Kirby Smart has a record of 117. 100 wins, 17 losses. And he's done it faster than the greatest of the sport have ever done it. Faster than Steve Spurrier, the bane of my existence growing up. That's why I hate Florida so much. He wouldn't care. He hates Georgia. Fair enough. And then the greatest college football coach of all time, Nick Saban, took him 118 games to get it done. Took Kirby 117. Sports fans like to talk about numbers. That's a pretty good number right there. And what else happened this week? When you win a game like that, the way they did, people take notice. Kirby was named Bear Bryant Awards Coach of the Week. And his players, we could probably identify them. Jalen Walker, SEC Co-Defensive Player of the Week, right along with Michael Williams. One hell of a performance by the Dogs. And what's more than that, Kirby was feeling himself a little bit, really emotional, had a lot to say after the game. We all heard it, but I just thought it was kind of funny. He was so pissed off that whether it's at the referees or at the conference or just the way the game went, whatever it was, he was ticked off, and he showed us a glimpse of what I, as a Bulldog fan, hope to see the rest of the way. That would be dark Kirby. Taking no prisoners. Right? With the defense that plays the way his defense played the other night, there's a very real possibility that that's what we could be in for the rest of the way, and I am here for it. I'm also here for the rest of this schedule. Next up, my hated Florida Gators. Hate them. Told you why. Spurrier ruined my high school and college years. Owned the Georgia Bulldogs. Because he hates Georgia. It was personal for Spurrier. Now the shoe's on the other foot. Kirby Smart hates him some Florida. And that's why the Dogs are handling business the way they're handling business right about now. Against the Gators. And I'm here for that too. I know Florida's struggling. Don't care. Georgia can't beat them bad enough. Let them show up and hang 50 on them, and I'm going to love every stinking minute of it. Everyone. Let it be a close game. I'm going to love that too. Because who doesn't like to stick the knife into your rival if you come out of there with a win? I sure do. Come on, Dogs. We'll see y'all after this bye week. Dogs are off this week, but when we get back in, it's going to be those Gators, and I am looking forward to it. The Georgia Bulldogs strolled out to Texas, walked into DKR in front of 105,000 fans, had 3 turnovers, and still won by 2 touchdowns against the number 1 team in the country, handing the Texas Longhorns the biggest loss at home by a number 1 AP team since 1982. In 42 years, nobody had done it the way the Dogs did it this Saturday night. And because we're on a bye week, I wanted to take a little bit of time and walk my way through it. We also looked ahead a little bit to the Florida Gators. They're going to get their shot at the Dogs soon enough. I, for one, cannot wait. Humility is always 1 week away in the SEC. That's true for Georgia, just like it's true for Texas or Alabama or LSU or anybody else you want to throw out there. Don't think I don't know it. When you've been a Georgia fan as long as I have, you fully understand humility is just 1 week away. I'll tell you what, you don't have to wait for, and that is the audio version of this podcast. We love to get things cranked up over here on YouTube. This is where we do everything. This is where it starts. But if you like the audio version of the podcast, you like to take us with you, head on over to Apple or Spotify or wherever you like to go. And help yourself to the How About That Dogs Cast on audio podcast. While you're there, please leave us a rating, review, whatever you want to do. We'd appreciate it. Also, here on YouTube, we're still on our way to 10K. We appreciate you being here with us. If you don't do anything else, please double check, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because that is how we grow. There's nothing you could do better to support the channel than to make sure that you're subbed. Costs nothing, means everything to a guy like me. While you're here, remember that we also have the newsletter, also costs you nothing. So check out the description below this video, in this podcast. Go ahead, sign up for the Ring the Bell newsletter. You won't get spam from me. I'm only going to send you something when it matters. So go ahead and do it. I'd appreciate it. It gives me a way to speak to you directly in one fell swoop. Also, tomorrow, don't forget to come back here, 7 p.m. Eastern time, for that SEC Powers Hour. Me and Joe Show going to sit in here and pick all the SEC games for you. Even you Texas people who are hanging out in here, I appreciate you being here. That's been nice. Come check us out. We'll pick your game this week, too. We always have fun on that show. I promise you, it's going to be a good time. You never have to doubt that. And I want to take a second and say thank you to our channel members, because these folks choose to go above and beyond. Again, I appreciate you being here, watching the stream, subbing the channel, liking, sharing, doing all the things. These individuals choose to go one step above and beyond that and support this channel. It helps me do what I can do here and do it at the best possible way. And it's because of people like this that I can do that. So I appreciate that. Thank you guys so much for all of your support now and into the future. So the Georgia Bulldogs put the world on notice. College football still runs through Athens, Georgia. Anybody else can say anything they want to, but the on-field results, they matter. That's why Georgia's number 2 right now instead of number 1. On-field results matter. Everybody has to deal with them dogs. There's only been one team that's given the Dogs any kind of a road speed bump at all over the last handful of years. And at this point, I'm not so sure that we're going to see that team again this season. But the Dogs have to improve. They have to get better. They have to become that complete football team that they want to be. If they do that, then the rest of the college football world should, well, we're coming up on Halloween. Be afraid. Be very, very afraid. Thank you all for being here with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who spent the last hour with me listening live here on YouTube. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your friends. Take care of your families. Take care of each other. And go Dogs! Hello, everyone. Thank you for sitting in here with us tonight. Lots of people in the chat. Lots of people watching. Thank you so much for that. Let's do a few minutes of overtime here. I'm not going to keep you long, but I do think, if I'm not mistaken, very early on in the night here, we had a super chat, and if somebody's going to take an opportunity to offer up a super chat for the stream, well, then we are going to make it a point to show up and recognize that super chat. It's from our longtime supporter, Jay Shipes. He says, Texas soft. That didn't go off as smooth as I'd hoped, but there you go. There it is, Jay. You drop the dime, you get the time, brother. You can put anything on there within reason. I'll try to read it. There you go. Thanks for your support, buddy. I appreciate it. We want to make sure that if somebody's going to take time to offer up something like that, we're going to give your full props. And again, thanks to everybody who chose to hang out with us here for a little while. If anybody else has any specific questions or anything like that that you want to mention, Super Chat is the one way that you can guarantee that we will address it. The channel, the comments, sometimes they fly by so fast you can't catch them all. So I'm certain I've missed a lot of good stuff over here. I don't know everything that's been going on. I do know that Carol's working hard over there as a moderator. Thank you, Carol, for trying to keep things peaceful and friendly here in the chat, because that's what we are. We are not a trash talking show, right? I'm just not, that's not what we're about. So I appreciate you doing what you can to make sure everybody feels as welcome as possible. My position on all of this is everyone is welcome here until they show us that they're not, right? So I don't want us to be getting rid of anybody unless they show us that they just can't play nicely with others. And if that's the case, then I trust your judgment. So, Carol, thank you so much for doing that for me. I appreciate it. Look at my man, Jay. Come on now. Coming through again with another super chat right here. He says, great show, Randy. Man, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to be honest with you. This is weird. Whenever there's a bye week, it's weird because I'm like, which part of the world of college football, of Georgia college football, should I talk about? Right? Because there's so much going on, and I don't have I can't do live shows every night. You can't do call-in shows right now just because of the time and stuff it takes. And so I try to figure out what's the best kind of story. And because we had the bye week, I'm like, cool, let's just review what was a big game and just sort of get all that out of my system, and then we can move on. Because like I said, the hated Gators are coming up next, and I am always about getting after the Gators. So I do hope that you guys enjoyed the show tonight. I really do. Because I tried my best to make it interesting and point out some stuff that maybe you hadn't heard everywhere else. And you guys are awesome because you understand the pacing and the flow that this channel has to go through because of my real job. Like I said, I'm covering sports on the weekends, and Saturday the Dogs play that night game. Y'all, I got in bed, I think it was somewhere around 5 a.m. Sunday morning. It was something crazy like that. It was just, that's the way it goes for me. In America, we play sports at night and on the weekends. And so that means yours truly is, doing the thing until we're not doing the thing anymore. So I appreciate you guys being patient and waiting to hear from me on Wednesdays here live in the stream. This is where you get it first, unless you want to become a channel member. And if you become a channel member, you have access to everything that we do as soon as we go off the air. And then everyone else, you have to then hang around for the videos that will come later this week if you want to get all the thoughts. But that's why I want you guys to please double check and make sure that you might think that you're subscribed, but YouTube does a good job on the algorithm. If you love Georgia and you love the Bulldogs, they might say, hey, check out this guy. And I might show up on your feed, but that doesn't mean you're subbed. So if you like what we did here, thank you for spending the time. Double check, make sure you're subbed to the channel because, again, we're trying to get to 10K as quickly as possible. And it's people doing things like that to support the channel that make that happen. And I want you guys to know how much I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. These numbers, we had over 100 in here at some point tonight, just from what I saw in the live stream. That is a huge number. We're growing, and it's because of you guys who are showing up and are giving me an opportunity. And I will always try to just be worthy of that investment of your time. And yes, I'm going to throw this one on the screen just because I see somebody in here, and Jay is he did the deed for me here. He pointed it out for everybody. My man Antoine was in the chat tonight. I saw the name over there, and I smiled like at least twice in the broadcast because I saw Antoine over there. And I just want to give Antoine a shout. Antoine was my very first channel member. He was the very first person to put down his 4 quarters and say, man, I appreciate what you do. And I appreciate that, Antoine, really. It's so good to see you back in here, man. I'm so happy. All the support that you've given over the years to the channel, we've only been around a year, almost 2, but you've been there from the beginning. And I just want you to know that I appreciate it. And it means the world. I'm happy you're back in here. I hope the show was worth your time. I really do. It's good to see you. I hope you're well. Let's see. And again, I'm glad to see you guys in the chat, being friendly, hanging out, doing some stuff. This is good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, I appreciate it. See that'll throw that on here too. I appreciate that. What is that? Great riffs here, dude. That's awesome. You see my wait. You get turned around. You see my axes back there. Telly, Strat, right? Awesome. I'll check out your channel. Do you have videos up? That'd be awesome. I'll check them out. That'll be cool. That'll be cool. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for taking a chance and checking in with us. That'll be awesome. All right. I guess we're going to wind it up. I have kept you guys here over an hour. So I hope it was worth it. I appreciate you being here. Seriously, you guys, take care of yourselves. Take care of your friends, your families. Take care of each other. And you know what's next. I can't do a drum roll. Go Dogs!